Are you ready? Cause you better get ready. I will be taking you down a deep, dark, hilarious rabbit hole that is the top 10 dumbest Spider-Man villains. This is Top 10 Nerd and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Writing this one literally broke my brain a bit, but if you enjoy it, let us know in the comments cause trust me, there are so many dumb Spider-Man villains. We could do a top 100 list. Also, if you are a Spidey or Marvel fan, make sure to show that love by giving this video a thumbs up. Okay, deep breath. Let's do this. Number 10. Swarm. A villain that is just what he sounds like, made up of ton of bugs. Not just any bugs. Fritz von Meyer was a normal bug scientist just trying to control the consciousness of a meteor-affected hive of bees until the bees decided they didn't like that idea and tore him to shreds. However, while this happened, they somehow melded with his consciousness, and now they help him to form his body, which is really just the bees and Meyer's skeleton. I'm sure you can imagine a way that you would attempt to, fend off this villain. Yes, you guessed it, bug repellent, and yes, so did Spidey, and yes, it worked. Number 9. The Answer. Former big-time assassin for Kingpin himself, Aaron Nicholson, was one of the first to volunteer for Kingpin's superpower creation program. After being experimented on, it at first seemed that Aaron had gained no powers until he realized he had the ultimate power to become the answer to any situation. What does that mean? That there was no problem that he could not solve. He actually defeats both Spider-Man and Black Cat handily in the comics. So why is he on the list? A few reasons. His name is ridiculous, and although he defeats our hero, he never really returns, and later accidentally kills himself when he transfers his life force energy into Dagger in an attempt to use her powers. Guess he didn't have the answer for that one? Number 8. The Orb. Suffering from a deformity, the Orb's head is nothing but a giant eyeball. Yeah, I don't know how comic books really define deformity, but this seems like more than that. The Orb is a villain responsible for sending Spider-Man and Wolverine back through time. While this feat is pretty impressive, it did not seem to be his intention. He also ended up getting sent through time himself, and to his dismay, captured and returned to his original timeline thereafter. Let's examine his abilities. So, he can see really well, and after he absorbs Yuada's eye and gains Watcher level powers, he can see really well. Yeah. Number 7. Saturn, aka Father Christmas. Okay, so Saturn himself is pretty terrifying, and at one point is probably over 10 stories tall when both Spider-Man and Deadpool team up to take him down, wreaking havoc and being likened to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. But like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, Saturn also has a soft side, and it is for this reason I decided to add him to my list. How was he defeated in the Spider-Man/Deadpool series? By Deadpool and Spider-Man sharing with him the true meaning of Christmas. That's right, Saturn goes on a rampage because of the commercialism of the holiday. Saturn, hey, I feel you. But once Spider-Man and Deadpool explain the holiday's true value, bringing family together and the like, Saturn gives up the goat and decides that maybe Christmas isn't so bad after all, proving that some villains can be reasoned with. Number 6. MINDWORM. Another villain added to the list because of how surprisingly easily he was to defeat. William Turner was born with the ability to drain others' psionic energy, basically feeding off their brains in a telepathic way. He was living in an apartment and feeding off the energy of its residents until he tried to feed off of the energy of Peter Parker. Peter's mind was too strong, and due to his Spidey sense, he knew something was afoot. He uncovered MINDWORM's plot, beat him up, and defeated him. MINDWORM never killed anyone, but later was manipulated by other criminals to help in a robbery. Being in and out of prison and left destitute, this villain met his end after trying to turn good. While homeless, he was killed by a street gang. Mostly I included MINDWORM because he's just sad. Poor William. Number 5. STEGRON. After the discovery of the Savage Lands, Dr. Vincent STEGRON was tasked with assisting in research on the dinosaurs which had reappeared there. Unfortunately, Vincent became obsessed with the research, stole and used a formula, and was transformed into STEGRON, a dinosaur human. His master plot was a good one, to use the bones of dinosaurs from the past and bring them back to life, and to conquer the world and rule over his reptilian subjects. Good plan. bad timing. STEGRON put this plan into action in December, and his reptilian body could not stand the cold. He was seen at the end of this plot succumbing to the cold and slipping to the bottom of Central Park Lake. Number 4. White Rabbit. I mean, to see how silly this Spider-Man villain is, just take a look at her. Lorena Dodson was inspired by, you guessed it, Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland when she was a young girl, and since becoming an adult, decided to adopt the character of White Rabbit for her villainous identity. She decided to become a thief and criminal simply because she was bored and had the funds after killing off her richer, much older husband whom she was actually forced to marry. Okay, so I do feel a little bad for her there. Not only are her motives almost non-existent, but so are her abilities. While having an accoutrement of gadgets at her disposal, she has no real powers, and half the time her gadgets can be seen giving her more trouble than they're actually worth. Number 3. The Big Wheel. Speaking of ridiculous gadgets, that is what this next villain is all about. Meet Jackson Wheel, who's just your run-of-the-mill corrupt businessman until one day everything changed. He commissioned a wheel from the Tinkerer. Like a big wheel. I mean, people do say that the wheel was one of the best inventions, right? How did he try to defeat Spider-Man? By running him over in his big wheel. Pretty, rudimentary logic, I suppose. Unfortunately for Wheel, his wheel was more of a land vehicle rather than a water vehicle. He fell off the side of a building and into the Hudson River while fighting Spidey and ended up arrested. In fact, he is often defeated by simply just falling off things. Number 2. PLANTMAN. The biggest reason why I wanted to include PLANTMAN on my list had to do with this hilarious panel I found of him. Though PLANTMAN has now been retconned, the original PLANTMAN was Samuel Smithers, a gardener who is working on a way to make plants talk. I wonder what plants would say if they could actually talk. I imagine they would just sigh a lot. Anyways, when lightning struck his experimental plant ray gun, the lightning magically made it work. Sort of. The ray gun gave Smithers the power to animate plants. He adopted the mantle PLANTMAN and tried to get back at the former employer for firing him, and thus a villain was born. Although PLANTMAN later successfully poisoned Captain America, almost killing him, Spider-Man and Falcon teamed up to defeat his plot because PLANTMAN made an antidote, and it was super easy for them to take it from him. Why even make an antidote in the first place? That just seems like a bad idea. PLANTMAN even acknowledges that it kind of is while he does it in the comics. Number 1. Grey Goblin. Oh, Grey Goblin, okay. I had to put Grey Goblin on this list simply for the sheer WTF factor of his origin story. Grey Goblin is, get this, the child of Norman Osborn and Gwen Stacy. And that's not all. Apparently Gwen Stacy was secretly pregnant with not just one Osborn baby, but with twins. Also, Peter never noticed. When Osborn finds out that Stacy plans on keeping the babies from him and raising them with Peter, he kills her under the guise of Green Goblin and raises the babies as their quote-unquote uncle, increases their age rate? What? In typical Norman Osborn fashion, he brainwashes them into thinking Peter Parker is their father and that Peter Parker actually killed their mother, Gwen Stacy. Actually, what even is happening in this story? After the twins Sarah and Gabriel find out about their true origins because Peter Parker tells them and later Gabriel finds bona fide proof that he was telling the truth about their parents, Gabriel still injects himself with Goblin formula and becomes Grey Goblin in an attempt to kill Spider-Man. Why? Why does it exist? Well, I'm left needing to read about some better Spidey versus villain battles after that list, and I'd love it if you'd help me out by commenting with some of your favorite Spider-Man villains and villain moments in the comments below. Please, seriously, help. Also, if you have friends that are also huge Spider-Man fans, feel free to give this list a share so that they can maybe have a laugh with you. And if you haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Give that sub a click. Thanks for watching. This is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.